So yeah, my name's Andy. I've worked at Heritage Parts Centre for 13 years, and my job involves meeting people, sharing their stories about vehicles and businesses, and basically passion for the hobby. Today's guest spent the last 15 or so years professionally immersed in car culture, working for Fast Car magazine, amongst others. However, it's his current position as editor of the modern VW Transporter magazine, VWT, that's led him straight to our door. And yeah, please welcome along Glenn Roswell.
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting me.
How's it going? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not on deadline this week, so that's good. I'm working on a longer issue. We've got like 5 weeks for this one, so it means that next week I'll probably have a couple of days tinkering with vans, so that makes me very happy. Not
very nice.
in my office for a bit.
So yeah, we'll kind of jump into it really. Yeah, the VW magazine game's been quite a closed loop in recent years, with editors swapping seats, each taking turns to report on various corners of the community. So congratulations on stepping into the circle, really. Would you mind telling us a bit about your journalistic journey that's landed you at the helm of VWT?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, really, actually. So, like, I don't know, I went to, I did college. At college I did leisure and sport, and I went to university and did leisure and sport. And then I kind of like, I sort of like was going in and out of different jobs, really. And like the one thing I'd always loved is I'd always loved cars, and I'd always bought car magazines, and I always just thought it looked like, you know, basically the best job ever. Anyway, I was working for a recruitment company. I got made redundant. Well, say unfortunately, it worked out to be quite fortunate. And anyway, I was chatting to Jules at Fast Car magazine about featuring my AXGT or AXV with a VTS, and I was basically just sending an email to him saying, "Oh, it'll probably be ready to be shot in maybe 2-3 weeks because I've got a bit of gardening leave." And then basically, just as I went to send the email, I stopped, paused, and then just put, "P.S. You don't have any jobs going, do you?" question mark. Anyway, next day heard back. And he's like, "Oh, we do actually. We've got a position coming up for an editorial assistant, maybe if you'd be interested in that." So then what did I do? I went to the Donny show in 2005, I think it was. Went with all my mates from Sussex Cars, which was a car club I was with, which was obviously down Sussex.
That was in Brighton.
Living in Crawley, which you guys probably know those guys quite well. Anyway, one night got incredibly drunk. Someone dropped me, busted my knee, ended up on crutches. Met the Fast Car boys. They probably all thought it was quite funny. Anyway, managed to basically say like it'd be really cool if I could do just a week to prove that I could do this job, because I just wanted it so bad. I thought I'd do anything to get a job on a car mag, especially Fast Car, because it was local to me. They were sort of in Kent. Anyway, so they offered me the opportunity to go in and work there for a week. Unfortunately, I couldn't bloody drive because I had a crutch, so that was like on crutches. So that was like really bad. I literally turned up on crutches. It was a bit of a nightmare, but they all thought it was quite funny. Yeah, and I remember I sat down at the desk. And then I sat opposite Big Trev, who's a proper legend at Fast Car then in Jersey, who'd worked at Fast Car quite a while as the editor and also worked at Max Power. And then I just sat there thinking, oh my God, I'm actually in like the famous FC Towers. And I remember them just sort of saying, "Right, here's some stuff for you to write." And then it was then when it dawned on me, I just thought, oh God, why have I blagged myself a job here? I've not really done anything like this. I just managed to blag myself in there, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh God, I've actually got to write some stuff now. Anyway, so wrote a couple of features. It seemed to go quite well. Paz, who was the designer then, gave me good tips on making the boss the best coffee ever. And I remember making him a coffee, him giving the deputy head a thumbs up saying that's good coffee. And I felt like that was probably more important than having good writing skills at the time. Anyway, yeah, a couple of weeks went past, didn't hear anything. So rung them up. They pretended they didn't even know who I was when I called up, and was just generally quite horrible. And said, "Sorry, does anyone remember this guy?" And then I was like, "Nah, sorry, mate, put the phone down on me." So I was just a bit like, "Oh, okay, obviously someone else has got it." And next day, a letter arrived in the post offering me a position of editorial assistant. And then there I started working at Fast Car. So I still do freelance for them now, not as much as I used to. But yeah, basically ended up working my way through the ranks at Fast Car up to from editorial assistant to staff writer, and then a position come up to be the online editor, which to be honest was like, it probably came up a bit sooner than I wanted it, because being a staff writer, probably speak to anyone that works on a magazine, it's probably the best job you could have. You literally just have like so little responsibility. All you have to do is basically just go out on shoots and fly around the world, you know, just going on shooting stuff and doing stuff and living it and doing the bit that everyone looks at that looks
the
amazing.
jolly,
living the dream basically, or you know, just doing the best stuff. So the online ed job come up, which was quite a big leap from where I was at, but I thought, I knew on Fast Car no one ever seemed to leave because it was such a great place to work. So I thought, if I don't take this, there's every opportunity I could still be doing this job 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years down the line anyway. So I went for it, and yeah, just ended up staying there as online editor. Worked hard on growing the website and social media stuff, because obviously print was obviously getting hit quite hard. So obviously having a good website was really important. So, and like a lot of the other magazines didn't have like a full-time online editor, whereas we sort of always saw that as quite a big focus. And Future Owners then were very digitally focused as well, who they bought us out in 2006. So did that for a long time. So yeah, loads of crazy adventures, which I'm sure we'll get into later. And then yeah, like last year, Performance Audi came up, and I've got an RS4 and A6. Always loved my Audis, and you know, kind of like my Vags, and got offered the opportunity to become the editor on Performance Audi, so I took that over. Did that for about a year, and then my boss said he wanted to speak to me at Autosport this year, which made me just think, okay, I've probably done something and I'm in trouble. And he basically just said to me, we're having a bit of a shuffle around some of the VW titles, and Nighty's going to Volkswagen, his kind of like spiritual home where he sort of started off. We'd love you to take over VWT. It's a bigger magazine, you know, really strong subscriptions base, and obviously we know you've got a T6 and you love your T6. So I was like, oh, okay. Wasn't what I was expecting. I was more expecting to get told off, to be honest, not be offered like kind of like a promotion, I guess. So went home, had a think about it, you know, and just thought, do you know what? I spend so much time in my T6, probably way more than I was spending in my RS4, because I've got a family. You know, my RS4 was getting used less and less. I said, yeah, I'd love to go for it. And then basically, I guess, you know, obviously COVID hit, which was like terrible. But the van scene has exploded through this, obviously, with, you know, people buying, lots of people buying vans and stuff. So, you know, it's kind of like, you don't want to say good timing, obviously it's horrible what's going on, but I was fortunate. I was really fortunate I moved when I did, I think. And I absolutely love VWT. There's, you know, the owners have just absolutely fantastic stories. You know, the issue I'm working on now has got one of the stories in there. It's just, I won't tell you what it is, because you can buy the issue and it comes out next month. It's just like, the writer, Gordy, even messaged me and said, this might not be the kind of story you're expecting. And it was just like, wow, that's so cool. And that's what I love about the van scene. I just think the owners of us just there's always just seems to be so many amazing stories. So yeah, so it's great. I love it.
So what was your first experience with the VW scene?
Right.
A quick one before you do that. We had a guy watching, or might have been a lady even watching, from Puerto Rico. So a massive shout out for them if they're still on.
Oh, hello, Puerto Rico.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you've got any transporters that need shooting, let us know. I wouldn't mind going there. So, right. So my dad was always into cars, and my granddad was always into vans. So my dad was always taking the mick at my granddad's van because it used to break down a lot, being an old air-cooled thing. But anyway, this is this is me and my granddad.
Oh, nice.
On the top of his bay window when I was probably about 5 or 6. So like, my first real experience of car community was air-cooled Beetles. Was air-cooled stuff, so Beetles and vans. And I went to something, I think it was called the Peppercorn Rally or Popcorn Rally or something. I think
Peppercorn was in Kent.
Yeah, it was in Kent, because that's my granddad was from Kent. And I remember going in his van. And it's like my first experience I remember of going to a car meet. So my nan and granddad were probably in their like mid-60s. So we turned up in their, you know, very classic bright green bay window, you know, curtains, little cooker, hob, all the works. And I just remember pulling in, and I just remember seeing like just this lovely community of like all the guys with the Beatles and the split screens and everything. It was just really nice. And we parked up next to this amazing split screen camper with a surfboard on the roof. I remember jumping out, like I say, 5 or 6 years old, and this guy got out of this split screen, long blonde hair, proper surfer dude, about as you know, stereotype VW guy as you could want to meet, and just spoke to me as a little kid, like, "Hey dude, how you doing? Oh man, really cool." It was like, "Was this your granddad's van?" And spoke to me, and I just felt like really like part of it straight away. It was just like so welcoming, and I just felt through the whole scene, the whole day, just loads of people talking to me, and I was showing a lot of interest in engines and stuff and looking at wheels and things, and everyone had time to show this little kid and speak to me about it, which I thought was just really, really, really cool and inviting. And so, yeah, so kind of air-cooled stuff is kind of what drew me into cars. And I guess the other obvious thing, as cheesy it sounds, was like those long trips. So my granddad lived in Tunbridge Wells in Kent, and those long trips, very long trips in his van, it was so slow, going down to Eastbourne, where we used to spend probably longer driving there than we would being there. And I just remember, like, you know, all the other camper vans and Beatles flashing their lights and waving as they went past. And it was just really cool. It just felt like you were part of some like really cool thing. And I just loved it. You know, you get down the beach and there'd be all these other people with their camper vans all chatting. It was just such a nice friendly community. And it just made me think, wow, I just loved it straight away.
Cool. What was your first car?
Oh God, do we have to talk about that? Right, so my first car was a Citroen Visa 1.7 diesel, which was basically the car that probably barely anyone's heard of this. So this was the car before the AX. It was in
a square 2CV, I guess, even squarer.
Yeah, it was probably not as cool. Yeah, it was kind of in between the 2CV, which my dad did have one of those actually, and an AX. And it was just so boxy. I mean, it was quite talky for a diesel car, but it was like my first car. It was bright red, had a massive Kenwood sticker in the back window, massive speakers, bright red hubcaps on it, and just like it was literally, you know, just like, oh yeah. I thought it was cool, you know, at the time, because it's like when it's your first car, you love it.
Set of wheels.
Yeah, and that's what got me to college and stuff. And then I think a bit before I finished college, you know, I had a few years under my belt. Some insurance had come down, and it was basically not long before I was going to university. Basically, I had the choice between so the people are going to hate probably the choice I made, but I basically had a chance of either buying a VW Beetle Roadster Wizard, massive BF Goodrich tyres, convertible. I think it had like a metal flake on it, or a Citroen XGT. Or an R5 GT Turbo. So I really wanted an R5 GT Turbo, but couldn't afford the insurance, so that was out the window. So it was between the Beetle and that. And then I was moving to Leeds for uni, and all I could think was just, oh, my stereo is going to get nicked if I have a convertible. It's just like, it's really old, which means I could work on it. I'm probably better off going for something with a roof. So I went for the XGT. And then I guess through my uni years, I just kind of went more kind of towards modified cars and sort of a bit further away from air-cooled stuff. So I still loved VW stuff, but went kind of sort of like really into my French stuff for a little while.
Oh, we'll let you off. The AXs are kind of cool. So.
Yeah.
So this month you've published the 100th issue of VWT magazine.
Which
is pretty awesome. So yeah, massive obviously shout out for you guys, and obviously James, Jimbo, Paul, who all kind of former editors who have paved the way really. So what do you think is the secret to writing a successful VW Transport magazine?
I think the scene's really, really varied, and I think it's about encapsulating all of that in the magazine and getting a good mix of everything. So I think, you know, you've got to make sure you definitely have a T4, a T5 and a T6. Obviously, it would be very easy to fill a magazine with T6s because there's so many of them, especially at the moment being built. Finding T4s can sometimes be a little bit trickier, and it's getting a good balance because obviously you can get a fantastic, you know, even T6.1 that they're absolutely amazing, but obviously they're fairly new. Whereas the T4s, they can have a lot of history and a bit more of a story to them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's getting the right balance between new stuff that's got amazing modern technology, and then, you know, but then there's some T4s that have had, you know, some really good tech put in them as well, and just getting a good balance of everything. And as well, I think it's a balance between, you know, vans that some of the, you know, big van builders are building, because obviously they're the pioneers and they're pushing where things are going, and they're building these incredible vans, but not everyone can afford that. And just getting a nice level, I think, you know, from like a van up here that might cost 60,000-70,000 pounds, which, you know, is out of the price range of a lot of people. You know, I could never afford a van that expensive, down to something that maybe someone a bit younger can look at, and the kind of stuff they think, you know. And the T4 guys are brilliant at this. They build incredible vans, but like so many of the vans you look at, and a lot of some T5s as well, there's so much stuff in them that people can take from it. So I think it's just about getting a really good mix, and also a good mix of like modified ones, campers, and ones, you know, obviously the ultimate is like, you know, something that does everything. But I think it's just about getting a nice mix, and also getting vans with nice stories about, because it's nice,
Yeah.
pretty pictures, but it's nice knowing stories. And what I'm trying to do with VWT now is I'm trying to put the people more at the forefront of the stories as well. Just to get, because I think there's so many great personalities in the VW scene, and there always has been. There's so many colourful characters. I mean, you only have to go to a show, don't you? And you look around, and there's so much personality there.
Yeah.
Just trying to like bring those stories to life and put them in a magazine, which lucky I'm, you know, is made a lot easier, because I've got some amazing freelance writers that work for me, and some amazing photographers. You know, a big shout out to Andrew Thompson, who does a lot of stuff for me and's been really supportive since I've taken over. You know, he literally knows everybody, every van. You know, it's very rare you send him anything and he doesn't already know. Oh yeah, I know him, or that was owned by this. You know, it's about having a good support network of people around you as well. You know, I couldn't do this without, you know, really good writers, and also the photographers. You know, it's, you know, it's like, it's a team effort. You know, I'm the face that you see, this big horrible beardy face at the front of the magazine, but there's a lot of people, and obviously GR designer as well, who, you know, just makes the magazine look absolutely amazing. You know, unbelievable designer. Worked with him on Fast Car for like over a decade as well. So I know I can always trust him, and to make everything look really good. But the whole, everything sort of like coming together.
So you touched earlier, you've got T6, is that right?
Yeah, so I've got a T6 Caravelle, a 2017, which is like the family wagon. So I've done a few bits to it. It's the family bus, so it's not been able to go too crazy on it, and also it's still under warranty. But we've just put like just put some Wolf Race Explorers on it, like Swamper style wheels.
Okay.
It's a great big chunky Avon AX7s, which are like their new kind of like, they're like a 60 on road, 40 off road wheel, because we like to go exploring. So that's going a bit more swamper. It's not 4Motion, you know, so we're not going to be going up Ben Nevis in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just making it a bit better for driving on the beach and going a bit off the beaten track. And that's great. It's really versatile. You know, the rails in the Caravelle that go back and forth mean literally, you know, it's everything from I've got 6 seats for it. It's currently only got 4 in it, but I can have, you know, 2 in the front and 2 in the front and 4 in the back. But normally I have the two of the seats out the back, so they've got like a nice large boot space. And then of course all the seats can come out, so it's basically a van as well. So it's great for, you know, whenever I'm picking up car bits and pieces, and that was really good. And then, so that's like staying like fairly sensible and usable. And then I bought a T5.1 about 4 or 5 months ago. So I was originally going to buy a T6 before COVID hit, and then my sort of like I'm freelance and my budget got hit quite a bit. So I started looking for like a T5 or 5.1, and then a Stitches and Steels demo van came up for sale, which was like the first one in Europe to have a 6.1 front on it. So it's a T5.1 with a T6 rear, tailgate, and a T6.1 front. So it looks really new from a distance. Once you get close, you can see it's a bit older, because it's like a it's done like nearly 200,000 miles. So it's, you know, as Ollie at Stitches and still said, it's kind of a 6-foot stunner. It kind of like looks right from the way back until you get a bit close. But it's basically a van I can have like a little bit more fun with it. And the great thing with buying that is one, it's got the 6-1 front end on, so that's quite cool. And obviously it was really really rare then. Obviously quite a few guys have sort of done it since. And also it had their I don't know if you've seen their drop down bed systems.
Yeah, I saw some pictures of
the the carbon fibre frame that basically goes on a string, basically a rope system that goes to the roof. So it's basically a very minimal camper, which is kind of perfect for me because it kind of meant I had something that I could go to shows.
Yeah.
Fall to sleep, someone to keep the camera gear and shoot a show, and you know, but obviously there's been no shows, so that's kind of seen really limited. That's kind of like seen sort of like limited mileage really at the moment. But I've got
keep losing you, I think. Oh, hopefully Glenn's still there. Am I still there? Give us a wave if I'm still here. Let's see if we can add. Sorry about this, guys. We'll see if we can find Glenn again.
Hello?
Aha.
I don't know what happened then. I think my Wi-Fi just disappeared.
Yeah, mine fell over this morning. I thought, oh no.
I put it on 4G. I think it's actually probably supposed to be.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, there we go. I think it's on 4G now, so it'll probably be better.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've got that.
So you've got the T5.1 now. So don't know if
the Audi's gone. Did you get rid of the RS4?
Sorry.
Did you get rid of the RS4?
Yeah, I had to sell the RS4. It was just kind of like sitting there, not really doing very much. So I decided to sell it. I wasn't that keen on selling it. I kind of put it up for sale, thinking, oh, well, you know, I'll put it up on an owners club, and then literally within 10 minutes, some guy called me, and basically put like I had a £500 deposit put down on it with literally in like half an hour. And yeah, it was gone. He loved it, so it was like, you know, but it
easy
was
sale.
Yeah, it was very low mileage. It still had full Audi service history, which is probably quite weird for a 2006. But the guy that owned it, I bought it from a dealer. A guy owned it before him was a Audi mechanic, and the guy that owned it before that had it for like 14 years, and he owned like supercars, and it was all like garage and everything. So it was in really, really good condition when I got it. So I kind of like bought the best one I could afford. But yeah, I got it to sell it, but then it wasn't getting used very much really. I mean, I was pretty much just using the T6 all the time. So
fair enough. Save your fortune on fuel.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. The VAT, like, it literally, I think it's like 70 quid was about 190 miles or something. It's ridiculous.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So I mentioned your time on Fast Car magazine in kind of the intro earlier. I was an avid reader of like the modified titles in the late 90s, I guess, early noughties. So including Fast Car, Max Power. I always wondered, was there a rivalry between the magazines?
Yeah.
I kind of imagined it a bit like sort of Manchester United, Manchester City, or what, like the Scottish clubs or whatever.
Yeah, massive rivalry. I mean, we all got on really well, but ultimately there was, you know, it was like getting cover cars. It was like, you know, having to, you proper had to like, you know, really look after the owners. And, you know, in the heydays, it got absolutely mental. Like, the owners weren't stupid. You know, they were spending a lot of money on these cars, and they started playing you off against each other because they knew.
Oh, really?
Well, they knew we had quite good power for getting car parts out of advertisers. So, you know, people would go, oh, well, I'll come with you, but I need a new set of wheels. So you're like, oh, I have to sort out a set of wheels. So you were literally blagging wheels, audio for them.
Wow.
Brakes, all sorts of stuff. But what some of them didn't seem to know is that we did have good relationships with each other. I mean, I remember one person trying to play us, and Millsy, who used to work on Max Power, who, you know, I still chat to now.
Yeah.
were trying to play us off with each other. We used to talk to each other, and we literally go, "You won't believe what he's asking for now. Yeah, he's asking for this," and we're both like, "God, we might as well literally build the car ourselves. The amount of stuff he wants us to blow for it." But yeah,
has he got a car?
Yeah, it was no, it wasn't mine. Yeah, it was a really friendly rivalry. Sometimes things happen. I mean, we used to go to a big show at Magny Cause, and I remember Max Power had like all their food and stuff, and I think like eating, we went and got a load of their food and fruit in the swimming pool, and someone let some tyres down on our mini bus so we can get into the circuit in the morning, which we thought was Red Line, and then it was actually, I think Red Line did it because someone did something to them and they thought it was us. And yeah, but yeah, we always had a really good relationship with them. And like, funnily enough, Max Power Live, we probably got more cars from Max Power Live than any other show, because it was really weird, because there was so many. Max Power Live was an amazing show, absolutely massive. But
yeah, I went once, I think.
But to be fair, and I get it, you know, there's a lot of distractions at Max Power Live, probably if you're one of the staffers, if you know what I mean. Lots of, you know, drinking and having a laugh, which we still did as well. But we did tend to find that a lot of the time, like, we spent a lot more time with the owners maybe than some of the guys did at Max Power. So we used to come away with quite a few good cars. But yeah, I remember having a really good rivalry. I remember being like chatting to a car owner before, and Millsy and it might have been Anzo or something, were chatting to this car owner about sticking his car on cover, and you know, the guy's going, "Oh, what are you going to offer me?" And we were standing there going, "Oh, I think we're going to shoot it." No, we'd actually shot it the week before. So it was, yeah, no, it was a really good fun time, good rivalry. Yeah, and I'm still mates with quite a few of those guys on Facebook, and you know, still chat to them that when we bump into shows and stuff. So end of the day, we're all doing the same job.
Yeah.
You know, doing it for different publishers, you know, and I think there's a few people that crossed over. A lot of guys who worked on Fast Car when Redline started. Redline poached a lot of guys off Fast Car because Redline just offered probably just better money in a new magazine. So quite a few guys left Fast Car and ended up on Redline. One of the Fast Car editors ended up down there doing J Tuner. You know, Jez, who was my old editor, he was on Max Power. So, you know, there's a lot of people working on the same stuff, really. So you definitely want to keep it friendly, because I guess you never knew who might end up being your boss.
That's true. Yeah.
But no, it was a really good, absolutely mental time. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously the crew scene was massive. We were flying all around Europe doing all these shows and stuff, and it was every bit as rock and roll as it looked, and then some. Do you know what I mean? I think one of our old designer, Corin, basically described our job as like, what do you say, champagne lifestyle, lemonade wages. So we got to do some really cool stuff, but we just earned, you know, you don't get into auto publishing to earn good money, that's for sure. Unless you probably work for Top Gear.
Yeah.
Them guys are probably doing okay for themselves.
So what do you think Fast Car did differently to kind of stand the test of time? Obviously, Redline, Revs, Max Power all sort of disappeared from the shelves now.
Yeah, well, I think the closure of Redline was really unfair, because we were actually at the same publishers, and our publishing company was under quite a lot of pressure, I think, to make a bit of a statement to the board that they were basically doing something when the company was getting hit quite hard. When Redline got closed, actually, it was like we were all a bit like, what? Like, there was loads of magazines that we thought might be in the firing line, and Redline was, you know, not at all. And we were really surprised, and we were both quite different. Redline had gone very hardcore tuning and kind of moved away from being more Fast Car and Max Power. So that was kind of a real shock. I think, you know, Redline was a great magazine, and it never should have closed. It offered something very technical and very different to what a lot of other magazines did.
Yeah.
Revs, I mean, I was a reader of Revs and Max Power and all these magazines before I worked on them anyway. And Revs was like a bit more technical as well, but Revs started going a bit too Max Power, and I think almost they missed their USP. What I liked about Revs, I liked Revs because it wasn't like Max Power, and I liked Max Power because it wasn't like Revs, and it was almost like, I think they tried to make Revs too Max Power, more girls, a bit more dicking around kind of stuff. So
Revs had a bit of a retro cars feel to it, didn't it? I seem to recall. Like,
yeah,
that sort of vibe, a bit more hands-on.
Yeah, it was totally like, you know, Max Power was about cruising, having a laugh with your mates, going down the pub, going to shows, whereas Revs was a bit more hands on, and I think it just kind of lost its way. And also, they were both owned by the same publisher, so when Revs obviously started becoming more like Max Power, it's obvious what's going to happen is
Something's got to give.
Revs was going to go, and then with Max Power, I think they just lost their way a bit. I think the scene was changing quite a bit, and I think it's easy when you work on a magazine to be stuck very much in the show scene and what you see around you, where you've got to remember your readership's a lot bigger and outside of that, and then they're not always at all the shows, and stuff that in the scene might be seen as being really cool to the larger demographic might not. And I think at Fast Car, you know, our bosses did make some quite tough decisions that probably weren't very popular with us. I remember when we had the meeting and we went for a couple of mags, and most of the guys on the mag were looking at the feature cars and thinking it all just gone so crazy. You know, it was kind of like cars like, you know, Saxos and where is it, like you know, kind of like courses on 20s and these kind of things. And it was a really crazy period, and it did sell a lot of magazines, but it kind of got to a point where it had gone so far it almost got a bit ridiculous, and there was owners coming to you with like, oh, I'm the first person in the world to do this, and you were kind of like, it's probably because it's stupid, that's why no one's done it. And it was getting a bit too crazy, and our bosses basically made a decision that they just said, we don't know where the scene's going, but this isn't it anymore, it's just gone too far. So we pulled ourselves back and went back to like 205s, roll cages, throttle bodies, just kind of like more basic tuning for a little while. And then we took a trip to Magny Cours, and we bumped into some of the clean guys from Belgium and saw what they were doing with their cars, and we're just like, this is it now. It's going from excess to less. And that was kind of the big thing. We spoke to a lot of our advertisers to give them a heads up going, we think this is like where things should start going. And it was a hard time because a lot of guys whose cars we'd featured and people had built cars, for us, all of a sudden it wasn't what we did. And Max Power carried on doing that. And then for quite a while, I think we were quite separate. Like Max Power was definitely the more Larry cars.
Yeah.
But then I think when, like, I hate mentioning it really, but I think when the chav word came in, it really made a lot of the really excessive cars just not look cool. And it's quite damaging for the industry, really, and quite unfairly, really. But I think it definitely was just, you know, it just kind of really tarnished that side of the industry. And I think luckily we were kind of a bit out the other side a bit, and we've grown Fast Car up a bit more, which I think some of the advertisers were looking for. There were certain advertisers that wasn't very happy about all the naked girls and, you know, the girls flashing at cruises and that kind of stuff. So I think we're just a bit ahead of it. And Max Power did have like, you know, it's probably a little bit unfair, but they did bring in like a really fresh editor from I didn't even think he'd done much auto stuff. And I remember they put a Range Rover on cover, and Max Power was basically trying to like go a bit VIP, higher end. And I think the headline was like Corsa Crusher, and you were just like, what? Like as if you've just like taken a poop on the Corsa community. That's like one of your biggest readership. So like that was almost to us was just like, oh, what are they doing? And then some other guys came in, I think, that tried to rescue it towards the end, but I think it was a really hard job for them. And I think Max Power definitely went out of a bang. I remember going to the last kind of few shows they did and still going, how can they afford to do this with what they're selling? It was mental, do you know what I mean? But you know, they all went to SEMA, and we were all like, how can they all go to SEMA? And like we can only have one person go to SEMA. But I think the other thing is our bosses were always a lot tighter, maybe with money, you know. So I think maybe we were a little bit more protected. That basically we were kind of used to working on a slightly smaller budget, and not going all out. And it's crazy actually. I think it came up on my Facebook thing that Max Power actually closed. It's nearly like 10 years ago actually.
Really?
This month it was announced now. Yeah, I think January 2011 was. It's mental to think it was 10 years, and you know. And I know a couple of the old guys do a tube called Max's actually, which is kind of revisiting some of the stuff that Dan Anslow and Millsy are doing. So if you like the really old school stuff, probably check that out on YouTube, and obviously also check out the Fast Car TV YouTube channel as well. Better say that, or I'll definitely get into trouble. So you know, Yeah, crazy time.
Cool. There's so moving on from that, really. Part of one of the kind of the trips you did, I think you did Gumball 3000. Is it a couple of times you've done Gumball?
Yeah, I did. So
That's pretty epic. I've got a couple of questions, really. What was it like? Where did you go? What did you drive, and who did you meet?
right, so in 2007 it was London to Istanbul. We did the European leg, which was London to Frankfurt. That was the year that there was quite a bad accident, and it actually got in Macedonia, I think it was. So it actually got cancelled. So there wasn't actually, after we finished, there wasn't that much. So London was amazing. We did the launch party. It was everything you expected. Celebrities, you know, everywhere. It was just like it was proper mind blowing. It wasn't.
Did you do it as fast car?
Yeah, we did it as fast car. So we did it at quite short notice actually. So we didn't know what to do with a car. Midge I worked with, he had an R32 Skyline non-turbo, and we had to basically build a car really quick for it. And we're like, well, it was a non-turbo, so it was bloody slow, but we thought, well, we can make it look fairly quick. How can we make it stand out though? So he came up with this stupid idea of making it like a Tokyo highway pursuit cruiser, you know, like they're kind of like half black, half white. And it was half black anyway, or was it half white? Anyway, it meant we only had to paint half of it. So we basically made it look like a Tokyo police car. I remember being in the workshop 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, as he drilled into the roof of his R32 and just being like, oh, what the effing hell am I doing? So we built this, you know, it didn't look, it looked the part, you know, it wasn't very fast. So we got that built, and we done something called the Gumball, now known as the Scum Run for legal reasons, obviously. But we actually did that. I think we did that 1 week. We came back for 2 days, and then we did the Gumball 2 days later. So we literally did back-to-back rallies, because we actually did a feature called Gumball to Gumball. So it was literally like from driving. Gumball was like £500 maximum cars.
Yeah.
Everyone said, well, your car's not worth 500 quid. And we're like, well, it was when it got imported. It was just the importing fees cost a bit more money, and we've obviously thrown a bit of money at it. And obviously we needed a car we could do both in. And that was just like a really good fun car. So London, Pall Mall was unbelievable. You know, people cheering. It was literally like being a rock star. Then we went to Amsterdam the first night. And then we went from Amsterdam to Frankfurt, but that's when all the trouble started. So the German police were just like, they banned the Gumball from driving through.
Okay.
So we got pulled over like early hours in this R32 pretend police car, which obviously they didn't find very amusing at all, especially when we started putting the lights and the sirens on, thinking it was funny, and you're just like, mate, stop being a knob. So anyway, the police come over and they said to me, like, oh, right, we need your license. And then he wandered off to see someone else. Then Midge looked at me and goes, I haven't got my license. I went, you've not got your, what do you mean you've not got your license? You can't, I don't think you cannot have a license in this country. We'll probably get locked up. So he had this like really distinctive camo biker jacket on. So I was like, give me your jacket. So I put this jacket on. I mean, he's called Midge for a reason, and I'm 6'2". So the cuffs are up here. So I gave him my driving license, and the guy looked at me like he was driving. I was like, no, I was driving. Surely you recognise the coat. So we just about got away with it, but then they just started dishing out everybody like €500 fines, which for us back then as staff writers, that was like basically half a week's wages. Sorry, half a week, 2 wages. I wish it was half a week's wages. So we were kind of there going, we can't pay this, we can't afford it. That's literally all the money we had for the whole European leg. And they're like, you know, he pays, he's paying, but we were surrounded by like Danny Dyer, Exhibit, all these like Jamiroquai from JK from Jamiroquai, all these people with so much money, and we're like, hey, JK probably earns more a day than I do a year. So we were so out of our comfort zone when it comes to like fines and getting pulled over by the police. And they basically transported us all the way to Germany, where basically there's a Hahn airport in Frankfurt was where they put all the cars on a plane and flew them over, but that's where we were supposed to finish. So the police escorted us there, and they were trying to get us to go on this plane, but we didn't.
And you had to go back.
Sorry?
And you had to turn around and drive back again.
Well, basically, we were never meant to go on the plane because we were supposed to stop at Europe, and they would go, "No, you go on the plane, or you're going to get arrested." And we're like, "No, no, we need to go," and they weren't having any of it. And we're like, "Well, we haven't got the visas. I think it was going to Turkey or something, so we didn't have the visas." So we just hung around to it, and we kind of disappeared off out the back of the airport. I found this little side road because I think it was like a trade kind of airport, not like a proper commercial, not like a one for like parcels and stuff coming in. And we literally just went and hid the car in some woods and found this little guest house and stayed in there overnight while all the basic craziness around Gumball died down, because there was loads of stuff on the news. I think Exhibit got pulled over and had his driving license taken, but then there was a video of him taking the piss out of the police because he basically had loads of driving licenses. And just, it's weird. I've always loved Smoking the Bandit and those kind of things. You did feel like a bit like he was above the law until you get pulled over, and the German police aren't particularly known for having much of a sense of humour. But yeah, so we hid the car up, and then in the middle of the night we literally just drove, I think it was about 150 miles to the Belgian border just to get out of Germany, and then we're like, oh, and then got back to the UK. And yeah, so that was pretty mental because we was only on it for like maybe 3 days, I think we did that. And then in 2010, the opportunity came up to do it again. And we had like a little bit more time to do it. So we did it that year in a Mercedes lowrider because the cars were getting a bit more expensive. And we found this lad that had built a lowrider. So we kind of like, we had a little bit longer, but not a lot longer. But we basically wrapped it, put the wheels on it, and I think the sound system in it, and not really much else. And we basically turned up to the grid in, literally, we turned up to the Gumball in like probably a car that was probably, I think we sold it for like 1,500 quid. So me and Mitch can probably take the titles for probably the cheapest ever car on the Gumball Rally. And we're probably the two poorest people ever to do the Gumball Rally as well. So, but yeah, so that year, I'm trying to think where it went. Actually, I've got it here to remind me. So that was like the pass that you get with all your all the different things and places you're all going. It gives you like all the places that you go to. So this tells you all what's happening because you only really find it on the day. So we went from London to Amsterdam to Copenhagen to Stockholm. Then in Stockholm, we didn't register our car soon enough to put it on a plane to fly it to the States. And also, once it's in the States, you've got to ship it back. So it was a bit of a pain. So we basically dumped our car at the airport in Stockholm, got a flight over to Newark, which is near New York, and we basically just like went to a hire place and just got the best like Bumblebee muscle car, like from Transformers. Hired a muscle car. They went through the terms and conditions. Obviously you mustn't race it, you mustn't rally it. Of course we won't do any of that. And then literally went round the corner, put Gumball stickers all over it. And then we drove that to Quebec, Toronto, New York, done all the crazy party and everything, and then literally dropped it back off at the hire, took it round the corner from the hire place, took all the stickers off, dropped it off, everything fine. Yeah, there you go, no problem, thanks very much. And then never none the wiser, apart from it had done quite a lot of miles in the 3-4 days that we owned it. So that was like London to New York was really crazy because obviously we did like the full, it was about 8-9 days I think it was from leaving London to coming back, and it was just like, it's absolutely exhausting. I'm not anymore, but I was a right party boy back in those days. But luckily, Midge that I drove with, he didn't really drink very much. He'd be under the table after a couple of pints, so he'd drink a lot less. So he'd always be up bright and early to do the morning run, and then I could kind of do this stuff a bit later, just to make sure we're safe. Because quite a lot of them, they did like, you made sure you had breathalyzer tests and everything kind of before you started, so because obviously you got to be safe. But I used to like a party, and it'd always be like, oh, just one more hour. And I remember like one hotel, literally lying down, closing my eyes, and the phone went off and said it's time to go. And I was thinking, oh, I've not even gone to sleep yet, and I've somehow got to go and drive like 400 or 500 miles in a day. So it's really hardcore. It's really hard work, but yeah, unbelievable experience. Like very, very privileged to get to do it and mix with some really cool people. I think done it with Exhibit a couple of times. He was really cool. Idris Elba was there. Randomly had dinner in Toronto with Idris Elba and DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill, just sitting there like trying to play it cool, like, you know, didn't take any photos because, you know, you think, oh, it's not a very cool thing.
You can't do that.
But now, like, I just think, oh, no one's probably going to believe that even happened, you know. Yeah, no, really, really good, crazy times. I'm glad I got to do it when I could, because, like, you know, and we were quite fortunate that so the 2007 one, we did this like special issue.
Yeah.
And we also did like a full film, like a film called The Gumball Diaries that we did with Ryan Dunn, Bam from Jackass, yeah, Tony Hawk, Max Cooper, Dirty Sanchez boys, and all that. So that was 2007. So we got some really good content out of it. It was so much fun, and you know, and we didn't pay. You know, let me just get that straight. We didn't have to pay for our entry. You know, they let us on for free. Because it was a big deal for it to go in fast car and do the film and everything. So we were really, really fortunate, you know, when people were like, how the hell did you afford that? And like, we didn't, because I think it was like, I don't know, like one year it was about, it's always more money the year they fly.
About 50 grand now, I think.
Yeah, I think the first one was about 28,000 per person. And that covers a lot of stuff, but you still have to get yourself back and your car back. It kind of covers most stuff there. It covers like your hotel and your food and all the stops and all those kind of things and all the parties and loads of amazing stuff. But obviously by the time you've been out in the evening and petrol, it's, yeah, you can spend a lot of money. But yeah, good times, very fun, very crazy. And I did also, on the second one I was so keen to do it properly, I took out a massive bank loan, which now is so absolutely stupid.
I won't ask you how much you took, but how long did it take you to pay it back?
About 5 years. I got into a lot of financial difficulties because, I don't know, I guess I just assumed that like my fast car wages were going to start going up quite considerably, but it never really materialized.
That's pretty serious,
to be honest. Yeah, so I partied like a rock star for like a week, but then like really paid
for it for 5 years.
Really paid for it for about 5 years, but yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest, but
let's offer just a bit of inspiration then. So for the younger people out there, school leavers, college students, etc., if they wanted to follow in your footsteps, just one piece of advice. How do you get into this?
Get your foot in the door is the most important thing. There's, you know, I think a lot of people don't ask. In fact, another guy I know actually is a really good writer. Actually, a guy called Jamie Arkle, who worked for Total Vauxhall for a bit. I bumped into him at a show and he said he wanted to do stuff. I'm like, well, just write something and send it in, because no one bloody does it. Like, everyone says they want to work on car mags, but so few people have the guts to actually do it and put themselves forward. I think in hindsight, I was really fortunate that I managed to get a job straight on Fast Car. But I think, like, if there's something you're really passionate about, the most important thing is getting your foot in the door of a publishing company. It might mean you go work as an editorial assistant on a knitting magazine or a website doing something that maybe isn't your passion, but once you're through the publishing house doors, it gives you a lot more chance of getting a job there, if that kind of makes sense. I think sometimes you can focus way too much about, like, you know, if you want to work for Top Gear, people will just focus so much on getting a job on Top Gear rather than have a look, see what other things are at Top Gear. Is there any freelance opportunity? You know, there's a lot of competition for freelance, but, you know, most editors, we still do spend the time. You know, I try and help as many people as I can when they send messages to me and they're trying to get into the industry, because I just feel like that's what I would have wanted when I was, you know, when I was that person. You know, I think it's good to be really helpful for these people, and quite often they're the people that do end up getting jobs because you can tell they've made, you know, they've tried. You know, if you want to be a photographer, go out and take photos of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Go out there, shoot stuff, send it to magazines. You never know. You know, they might just pick it up and publish it. And once you've got one thing in, it's obviously just a lot easier. But I think there's so much opportunity now with, like, it's different. You know, to get published when, you know, I wanted to do it, which was like 15 years ago, 2005 when I started. It was magazines and that was it. Do you mean a little bit of website stuff? You know, now you can do a YouTube channel, Instagram. You can shoot video. You know, you can make amazing content on your phone. You don't need expensive equipment. Stop looking at what everyone else is using. Just get out there, create stuff, and do stuff that you're interested in. Don't try and do what you think people are gonna like. You know, you might be into some really bizarre type of car or something, but there's an audience for it. You know, I think you've got to remember there's other people that like it, but just don't give up. Try hard and just give it a go. I mean, I didn't start a fast car till I was nearly 25, and I've done a lot of other things. So you know, I didn't study journalism or anything. Do you know what I mean? In fact, I think Jules worked at a newspaper. Midge was a manager at Lidl. I was a recruitment consultant. Fast car was always about giving people opportunities that loved cars, and they sort of said it was a bit like, you know, like a polish, you know, like polishing a diamond, you know, make a diamond in the rough kind of thing. They took people that loved cars and tried to help them become good writers and editors,
rather than do it the other way.
Yeah, I think Max Power had a lot of fantastic writers back in the day, some that were really good trained journalists and some amazing writers, but not all of them were as much. A lot of them were car guys, but some of them weren't quite so much car guys. So I think that always came through in fast car. I think we were always a bit more. Well, I remember my boss always saying that they want fast car to come across as kind of like your mate that you go down the pub with. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit of a laugh. Do you know what I mean? So
some quick fiery ones, because we're coming up to an hour, and I think Instagram kicks us off if we get there. Okay. So if you could own one car that you've had the pleasure of featuring over the years, VW or not, what would it be?
Right. So it's probably this. So
why did I? For some reason, I thought you were going to say, and I had is it Liberty Walk F40?
Yeah, I've always loved F40s. I had a poster as one when I was a kid, and also a Lamborghini Countach as well. But the first Gumball I did, I remember just this. There was a guy that had a collection of Ferraris, mental. I think he bought 4 Ferraris so he could drive a different one on different days, and just basically paid for a load of mates to come, mental. But I remember being in this car park and just like all these amazing cars, and then the multi-story, I just remember hearing this noise coming up, and this F40 just come up round the corner as it does on a multi-story. The lights shone, and I was just like, oh, wow, that's just absolutely, just such a good raw car. Just absolutely amazing. You know, something like that. Or I think modified. I think if it was a van, probably Andy Riley's RS4 powered T5. I mean, that thing.
Yeah.
I've not been out here off photographers, and that's just like, to me, I love an RS4. So an RS4 engine in a T5, absolutely great combination.
Let's jump to the next one then. If you could spend a weekend hooning around a racetrack or chilling on a campsite?
Oh, I probably would take the racetrack, actually. I think because like I work from home anyway, so I guess it's not just having that adrenaline rush of getting out there. And I do quite a lot of stuff with the family. So I used to race my AX up at Santa Pod, and used to do few track days and that. And also I used to get quite a lot of quite good opportunities to drive some quite cool cars through my job as well, quite often through tyre launches. So yeah, I got to drive some really cool Ginettas actually when on a tyre launch. In fact, actually, I think I was out driving one that was from a race series, and I think do you know Shane Lynch? Yeah. So I was out driving, and then the gearbox went, and I literally remember going, "He's not changing gear," to this guy on the radio. He's going, "You need to push it really, really hard." And like I'm trying, and I brought it in. And basically, yeah, it was Shane Lynch's car that I broke. But luckily, I think he was on like Celebrity Love Island or something at the time. So, but yeah, I think probably some circuit stuff. I think so, 'cause it's been a little while.
So hypothetically, a long lost relative sadly passes away, leaves you a tidy sum. Would you rather buy a $5,000 van and drop 30 grand on it, or just go with a forecourt and walk away with like 50 grand van ready done?
$5,000 van all day long and throw a load of money at it and to do something really stupid. Just put like a really cool, like nice engine in it or something. I think there's just like, I don't know, every time, I think this happened ever since I was little, every time a car or something goes past, I always think what I could do to it. I've never been able to turn it off in my brain. Even like before I worked in car mags and had like my kind of like a sales job, I remember sitting in traffic, just cars going past every day, just thinking, I'll drop that, put these wheels on it, do that. I get way more joy out of modifying something and making it unique, I think, than just picking something off the forecourt, I think.
So last one then. If you could be the guest editor on any magazine, cars or not, for a month or two, and it doesn't matter about time, what would you do?
I think it would probably either be Top Gear, because their budget must be bloody amazing.
Yeah.
And they do some really cool stuff. Or I don't know, maybe like DJ Mag or something. I have an idea in my head that if I worked on like DJ Mag or Mix Mag, that, you know, when that was going, you literally just go to Ibiza for the whole summer, which sounds pretty cushy. Though I'm probably sure that probably just like our job, and everyone thinks that we do literally no work and just go to car shows, get drunk and take photos. It's probably exactly the same. But yeah, one of those two would suit me good, or maybe a travel magazine or something, so I get to go and go around the world.
Sounds pretty cool. Let's wrap it up before Instagram kicks us off. So
okay.
massive thank you for chatting to me this afternoon. You've got some awesome stories. We could chat for hours, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So for people looking to follow you, they can follow yourself at Glenn Roswell, or the magazine on at VWT Mag.
Yeah.
At
VWT Mags are main for the magazine. So if you've got vans or anything you want sharing, just hashtag it VWT Mag, or have a look and DM us. So we try and share as many readers' vans and stuff as we can. So like, we know, and who knows, if you might get a feature out of it. So definitely worth hooking us up.
And then for fans of the modified car stuff, at Fast Car Magazine.
Yeah, at Fast Car Magazine on Facebook and Instagram. YouTube as well. We're doing quite a lot of stuff on our YouTube channel. Not something that I'm actually doing. So Jules has been doing quite a bit. So Fast Car TV, but I think it's on Fast Car Magazine on YouTube. So weekly content going up there now. So Matt Bell, who's doing a lot more of the online stuff now. He does some like really cool driving videos of stuff and general bits and pieces. But yeah, tons of stuff. And obviously, main thing is obviously, thanks to everyone for their support. Keep going out buying the print products and the magazines, because us guys really appreciate it. You know, the readers do keep us in a job. We've always got time to chat, and hopefully it shows. Roll on 2021 and Volkswagen in March. Fingers that vaccine is sorted, and I can meet you and meet everyone else, and we can just go to the bar and get back to some normality.
Back to normal. So if anyone's out there interested in chatting live with myself or Steph, then drop us a DM. Massive thanks to everyone for watching. We'll be saving this chat to our stories, IGTV, putting it onto Facebook and our YouTube as well, so you can catch any bits you missed. Please give it a like, drop a comment, tag a mate. See you all again soon. Take care, stay safe. Thank you very much again before we get cut off.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Bye.
See you later.